What's up, Bitcoiners? The sun, indeed, up. Bitcoin, running. Let's have a sip of our coffee, talk about all the news. So much happening. Good morning, Kevin. I was a little bit late today. Good morning, Bitcoin Pilgrim. So, you see, I was supposed to be in Toronto today. You might be wondering, why am I still at the farm? Well, I got this kind of car, and the kind of car that I have just lights up on the dash. That's what it does. It's like Christmas. It's Christmas outside, and I got a Christmas tree dashboard, lights everywhere, and I thought I had them all fixed, but I went yesterday, and just as I took down the Christmas tree, shut the farm down, turned the water off, turned off the heater, put the furnace on, got it ready, did everything I could to set the house up so that when I come back in March, it's not destroyed. It didn't work out. So car at the garage, should be done soon. We should be fine. So we'll be in Toronto celebrating Christmas with family shortly, and we'll be out of here eventually. But you're not here to hear about my stupid car, right? We don't care. The car thing, it's okay, right? We're going to get over it. You're here to hear about the funny news. What's funny today? What's the fakest thing we could find? This is from Hasaka Trades, and it's a bit of the theme of the day, right? Sort of you are what you eat. You know a person by their actions. So this is Hasaka Trades, who I've booked for a show before. And Hasaka Trades is pointing out how crazy things got at the top of this yield crypto thing. And he managed to find a TikTok video of the most boomer looking woman you'll ever find. She's even got the tortoise glasses, talking about all the jumps she had to make to get yield on the Time coin. Remember when Time magazine came out with its coin? So she's like, I was on AVAX, and I went to MetaMask, and then I went to Trader Joe XYZ, and I swapped it for that. And she's so proud at the end, right? She's so proud when she gets it done. So Hasaka Trades says, so this is why they say never meet your exit liquidity. Because she sounds pretty ridiculous, right? You got to see the video. Pension funds wrecked on Celsius and FTX. Pensioners wrecked on Wonderland. Crypto Twitter out here committing financial crimes against an entire generation. You remember my frame? Remember the frame that I had? Right? They're not putting it in their wills or anything, right? The whole generational wealth transfer thing, it's just scams. That's how they get it from them. It's scams, right? I will answer what kind of cars I have because I have a very Bitcoin answer, and it's a bit in the theme of the day, right? A couple of years ago, and I had so I remember the days when I had new cars and they were just as big pieces of shit as the cars I drive now as a Bitcoiner. Back in the old credentialist days when I was a lawyer, you had to have a BMW. Everyone had a BMW. So I had a BMW, and I was driving a lot and I needed it. So I had the SUV BMW, and it was great. It was a fun car to drive, but it was nothing but headaches with this and that. So at a certain point, when I moved into the Bitcoin world psychologically, so forget about buying Bitcoin, it was years after I bought Bitcoin and psychologically was turning, it came time for a new car. And I said, this BMW thing, it's not going to work. And then I said, well, maybe a Volvo or something stupid. My mind was just in the middle of changing. And I got in the Volvo, but then I found out that Volvo was actually run by the Chinese Communist Party. I didn't know they had bought it. I didn't know that it had become a Chinese communist thing. And I try to stay away from buying certain things in China. I do my best to buy in Vietnam or other places if it's shoes or whatever. So when I found out about that, I was like, So that's when I did the typical Bitcoin move to old Toyotas. But in my case, because I am a class of Bitcoin 2013, so we can be a little splurgy. So what I bought was a 2005 Lexus GX 470, which is truly if you're abroad, it is the Land Cruiser Prado. So the nice smaller scale Land Cruiser. In America, our Land Cruiser is the super big one. It's like the Toyota Sequoia, the huge SUV. and then the Land Cruiser is a derivative of that one. We never got the international Land Cruiser Prado. The Land Cruiser Prado in America is the Lexus SUV. So you get all the bells and whistles of the Lexus, of the Toyota Land Cruiser. You don't have to deal with any of the drawbacks, but you get, even though it's an 05, you get the screen, you get all the cool stuff, right? Because it was so far ahead of its time, and the thing costs nothing, and it's still in great shape. It runs amazing. It's super gas guzzler, but I don't give a shit. So I got that, and then to get over, this is why I've been through a couple bubbles. So I live large for a Bitcoiner. So I have the Lexus 05. 04 Tacoma, McTimmy says, yeah, we might have the same engine. I got the V8 though. I got the V8. And then in order to get over the border control for vaccinations and quarantine in Canada and the United States, when I went to Bitcoin 2021 in Miami, I stayed in Miami for about a month, and I bought an 08 Toyota Solara convertible. So it's like the two-door Camry, but it's a convertible. And it has a trunk and four seats for kids. It's like the only family-friendly convertible in the world. And I paid cash. I just went to the guy, and the roof was ripped. So I just put money on the table until he gave it. I said, you can't leave it out in the rain, right? You got to sell it to me. So even though this was a time when all the used cars in Miami were all sold, by spring 2021, it was very hard to buy a car in Miami. And I got desperate because nothing online was accurate anymore. The online sales couldn't keep up with the people moving there, buying the cars and everything. So I got an 08 convertible Toyota Solara. So sitting, if you're a multiple bull market Bitcoiner, you can have more than one of the fancy old cars. So I got an 05 Lexus and an 08 convertible Toyota. It's pretty strong Bitcoin garage in my case. And David Brooks says the Solara is one of the best vehicles out there drivetrain wise. I love it. I mean, I love that. I love it. Mostly my parents drive it now. I mostly gave it to my parents because my kids don't actually like the convertible that much. They complain about the wind all the time. They didn't mind it when we lived in Miami and would just go up A1A in the convertible for that month. That they found fun. But anyway, it's good to hear in Vermont. Like, as far as the weather and everything, it's not too hot. You can have a lot of fun in the show with the car. So let's get back to the story today. So speaking of cars, right? Speaking of cars, so they brought the guy who created the Elon Musk plane tracker onto mainstream media, right? Because somehow they thought it was a good idea and he was part of the story. And what are you doing? They have no idea what's going on, really, right? They really don't. They just heard on CNN, the anchor is like, oh, what happened here? I guess there was some trouble and journalists got kicked out. What do they do? Something about the plane. How bad is that? We don't know. So they bring him in there, right? They bring him in there and they're like, expecting him to be this sort of innocent kid who is just, played a prank on a rich guy. So he gets on CNN and, he's, first of all, he's got the really emotionless, expressionless face, like he's been inside since quarantine started and has no, human interactions. I don't know if that's true. It's just what he looked like to me. He looked a little low energy and without vigor. So they're sitting there and they're trying to get stuff out of him, like a bit like the Clock Boy. Remember Clock Boy, who created the clock, but then someone said he was a terrorist and called a terrorist thing on him, but then in Texas, but then actually it's just the clock, and then we all had to say it was just a clock. It was kind of the same issue. So they bring this guy in, and they keep expecting him to say innocent things, right? So what does he do? He's just a teenager, right? So, and he created the Elon Jet account. So what does he do on TV? He says, yeah, I'll stop it if he gives me a Tesla or $50,000. It's pure blackmail. It's pure blackmail. Didn't Ross go to jail? Isn't he in jail for exactly this? That's literally the price of shutting down the assassination market. I think Ross is in jail for this exact thing. I'm pretty sure. I mean, you tell me. My understanding is Ross is in jail not because of the Silk Road stuff, but because assassination markets sprung up on it, and somehow he was involved in some assassination, they say, And isn't that what it looks like? Money, if you do, if you don't, if then, plus money, or we track you and you die. Now, the threat of death isn't there, but that's the context of all of this. That's why the journalist didn't understand what the hell was going on, right? And he doesn't know. He doesn't know. So, unbelievable, right? So this guy's on there actually saying, give me the Tesla or give me the 50K and I'll shut Elon Jet down. And he's on the news. He's on the mainstream media saying this stuff. All right, he's a teenager. Who knows? So did you know that on the Thursday night, just a few nights ago, when all those journalists, Aaron Rupar, one of the biggest hoax creators in the history of the world, right? He created the Charlottesville edit, which showed Trump saying "fine people," the "fine people" hoax. He's the one who created the drinking bleach hoax, right? He's an editor that is able to clip videos and with no shame puts them online and shares them, and then they get widely distributed, even if they're lies. So he was one of the people kicked off. So on Thursday night, they were all 4 or 5 journalists, all for this airplane doxing story, were kicked off of Twitter, and Musk said, anyone who does this, you're off Twitter. So now there is a 3,000-word Wikipedia page titled Thursday Night Massacre. They called it Thursday Night Massacre for these journalists. Because, so here's Noam Bloom saying, there is a 3,000-word Wikipedia page titled Thursday Night Massacre because a bunch of people got suspended from Twitter for 18 hours. They got suspended from Twitter for 18 hours for doxing a flight. And there is a page called Massacre, the Thursday Night Massacre. So Elon Musk replied to Noam Bloom's, that's Neon Taster, if you don't recognize the name, on Twitter, and says, Wikipedia is overly controlled by mainstream media. And he added Jimmy Wales, the owner of and creator of Wikipedia. So there you go. Now, Adam Schiff, of course, jumped into this as well. And if you don't know Adam Schiff is the guy that always is put out by the Democrat Party to lie. So he's the designated liar. I've said on this show before, if you want to know the truth, you just wait until Adam Schiff speaks, and then you know the opposite is true. And the reason I say it's a rule is because they only push him out there when it's a lie. If it's true and it's touchy, they'll put someone else on camera. But if they need a lie, he's the guy. So here he is talking, weighing in on the issue. Elon Musk calls himself a free speech absolutist to justify turning a blind eye to hatred and bigotry on Twitter, racism. But when journalists report unfavorable news, they are banned without warning. The devotion to free speech is apparently not the absolute, but the hypocrisy is. So Elon Musk replied to him, thankfully, you lose your chairmanship very soon. Your brain is too small. Killed him. So everyone freaking out today about all this stuff. But the biggest story of kicking people off Twitter happened today. So forget about the Aaron Rupars. Forget about all these other no-name people. The biggest one fell last night, and the Thursday Night Massacre continues. Today, it is Taylor Lorenz. Do we know? We talk about Taylor Lorenz a lot on this show. Taylor Lorenz is a middle-aged woman. So I make a joke about her age because that's what everyone does on the internet to troll her. I guess there's this game where she's lied about her age enough that people always exaggerate her age and try to find a way to mention her as being old, even though, she's not really that old. She's probably in her late 30s, early 40s or something. But the game is to make fun of her age because she has taken efforts to change it. And as I understand, there's even a hard time searching for her. She's even gone far enough into search indices on Google and has some family connection, and they're able to wipe it off. I'm not sure who it is, right? I'm not sure who it is. So Taylor Lorenz last night kicked off of Twitter. We don't really know the details yet. We don't really know, or I wasn't able to find the reason this morning. Everyone's speculating. Here's NBC Ezra Kaplan. Taylor Lorenz's account was suspended after tweeting at Elon Musk asking for comment. Now, if you didn't know this, Taylor Lorenz is known for asking for comments on stories she's already published, so she won't even do the normal journalism thing of getting 2 points of view. She'll ask for the dissenting point of view after the article is already published. Tons of examples of this. So here's what she has gone on to say. Cancel culture has gone too far. I think the way that Musk is arbitrarily banning anyone who he personally doesn't like has dangerous consequences for free speech. So Wall Street Silver answers, we all know she was banned for being one of the worst people online. So this is a story from a few days ago about her doxing. So she's the person who doxed libs of TikTok. She's one of the big doxers online. So this is from Adriana Jacob. I'm not famous and I wasn't a public figure either when Taylor Lorenz asked me for my address, said it wasn't for publication, and then proceeded to dox me in the New York Times with the address she had assured me wasn't going to publish. She wasn't going to publish. The article was shared many times on Twitter. And this is in relation to her defending people who've been doxxed, Taylor Lorenz defending people who've been doxxed. And Elon Musk replied right there, such shameful behavior will not be tolerated going forward. So already a few days ago, mentioning that Taylor Lorenz is within his sights now of being someone who doesn't behave normally on the site and doesn't act like a journalist. Sticks, X, and Hammer says the legacy media, this time, yeah, here. I have a few quotes from Sticks, X, and Hammer. Here's what it is. The legacy media doesn't even conduct journalism anymore. So for them to hide behind press freedom as a facade to cover their years-long doxing / defamation / state disinfo campaign is pretty funny. So a lot of people laughing at the reactions because a lot of people just don't understand that this has been going on for so long and that folks have been dealing with this for a while. So this is from CNN, right? So Mike Solana points out CNN Oliver Darcy complaining about the Taylor Lorenz situation. And this is what he says. CNN's senior media reporter just learning how suspensions work for the first time. They have truly been on a different platform than the rest of us for years. And Glenn Greenwald adds, absolutely, the part of the media now treating a bunch of banal media employees as if they're Nelson Mandela for suffering a 12-hour Twitter ban is silent to supportive about Assange's imprisonment. So now he's comparing it to Julian Assange. These people missed 18 hours on Twitter, but of course, it's the same argument as we're dealing with Assange. Pedro Gonzalez had a really good way of putting it. Libs aren't intelligent enough for irony. I don't believe that. I mean, there's enough smart liberals out there. But I'll say a huge portion of liberals and conservatives don't understand humor, right, or irony. And I would say slightly more, in my experience, liberals don't get it, just because there's the whole humor part that's been cleaved off, right? The humor part is not really, right? We see it a lot, right? We see even these chat GPT things have a lot of trouble with humor because they're not allowed to make fun of a person, right? They can't single out a person, and that's most of humor. So while I understand why liberals don't like to make fun of an individual or a person or their group thing, I get it, right? It does keep them from a whole source of humor. So Pedro, I think just saying that. So I don't totally agree with what I'm saying with Pedro, but I'll say the quote anyway because it's funny. Libs aren't intelligent enough for irony. They don't have the moral faculties to understand hypocrisy. Reasoning with them won't work because they're ideologues. You simply have to hold them to the same standards as everyone else and marginalize them if that doesn't work. And that's what's going on here, right? That's what is driving everyone so crazy, is that the same rules are being applied. And lots of people picking up on that, right? Lots of people picking up on that. You got Sticks, X, and Hammer who also says, this time, it's time to bring the legacy hack to heel and keep her suspended, talking about Lorenz, permanently. Every word out of Lorenz's indeterminately aged mouth is some combination of defamation, harassment, or outright lunacy. And then you see everyone say, well, what did she do wrong, right? Sticks, X, and Hammer again says, Lorenz said Lorenz did nothing wrong, because the Huffington Post, quoting Lorenz's account, was that she was suspended just after asking a question, right? So this seems to be the terms of service litmus test. This is Sticks, X, and Hammer again, encouraged by the legacy media towards members of the legacy media. They apparently should be able to choose whether their own posts violate the rules, right? So again, what we're talking about is this elevated status, right? This elevated status that journalists, corporate journalists, experienced on Twitter, on Facebook, on Google search indexes, on any of these platforms. There was a privileged way that they were treated compared to normal people. And it looks like what Elon Musk is trying to do is apply terms of service to absolutely everyone. David Sachs here did a poll on this whole doxing question and asked exactly that, right? He said, should Twitter not allow real-time doxing? Should there be suspensions, temporary suspensions to enforce the policy? And should the policy be applied to everyone? So the questions were, should there be real-time doxing on Twitter, yes or no? So 72% said absolutely not. Should there be temporary account suspensions to enforce this policy? If you agree, 71%, so about the same, say yes, for sure. Now, 84% of people, right, 84, the largest positive affirmation of his poll, said that the policy on doxing should apply to journalists just as it should apply to normal citizens, right? And David Sachs says the interesting part of all this, of this study that, or the poll that he did on his, so this is David Sachs again, that he did on his Twitter handle, is the interesting that the strongest result is for treating the corporate media the same as everyone else. I suspect this is why they're acting so hysterically right now. And you get a few other folks who picked up on that. You get Glenn Greenwald, who had a few things to say about it. He says, a major driver for corporate journalist rage towards Musk is the loss of what they regard as their rightful entitlements as the top journalists. They break no meaningful stories. They're CIA puppets. They just work for big corporations, and they think that makes them special. So here, this is Oliver Darcy complaining that while Musk is banning all these journalists, he's also not helping top journalists, right? Because he's not helping top journalists and credited journalists. Somehow that's a logical fallacy on his part and is a mistake. So right away you see that the anger here is not really so much that folks are getting banned, it's that the same rules apply across the board and folks are having trouble. Just like we saw with the Oliver Darcy quote, they didn't even know the procedures of getting banned. You see him in the tweet, the one I read just a little earlier, trying to get his way around it, right? He's saying, oh, Musk has restored several of the accounts, but there's a notice on one account saying that if he violates it again, he's going to be in trouble, right? It required him to delete the account. So he's reporting on the procedures that everyone has known for a long time. If they tweeted about vaccines, if they tweeted about the elections, if they tweeted about money in certain cases, right? On other platforms other than Twitter, Bitcoin talk regularly gets censored, especially on YouTube. So right away, you see that the question is about the special status and is about the special treatment they've received. And they don't even know how other people have been living for the last few years. There's not even an awareness of it. So right away, they're picking up all these arguments that everyone has looked at before, right? It's the terms of service argument again. And every single time, people going, it's like a game right now that a lot of people on Twitter are playing. They find the people complaining about the journalists getting kicked off Twitter, like the Taylor Lorenzes. And then they go back into their Twitter history and find all the times they said, oh, terms of service, private company, who cares, right? So this is, I can't really read the name, but exactly that. It's this person complaining, don't know what happened here. If Elon Musk doesn't fix this within the hour, with an explanation by the morning, he'll be on Capitol Hill trying to defend these journalists, right? And then just a couple of years ago, it's irrelevant what it's a private, this is him talking about the same issue, someone getting censored, journalists getting kicked off because they didn't agree with their thing. It's a private company. He can do what he wants. And this is one in the previous iteration before Elon took over. So, all of this to me starts to make sense when you understand that the game they're playing, these journalists, really is a game of credentialism, right? The game is about status. The game is about the special privileges they held in the old Twitter and in the old internet when being a corporate journalist had currency and value to it. And now that that's being stripped away, you can see that it's causing a lot of anger and a lot of anxiety on these folks. And now also that all these other people are respawning on Twitter, all the people that were taken off, every day there's new people coming back. We saw Patrick Byrne, who came back yesterday. Patrick Byrne right away put up a question about what he would like folks to hear about from his Twitter handle, because he's been on Locals for the past 2 years just doing election stuff. If you don't know who Patrick Byrne is, he is a sort of an original Bitcoiner. He is the CEO of Overstock and has been a Bitcoiner for a long time. I organized a 10 years of Bitcoin talk between him and Adam Back back in 2019. And at that time, just after, as the 2020 election approached, he went public with the knowledge that he had been solicited by the CIA in order to spy on the Trump campaign and give them information, or it could have been the FBI, I forget exactly who. Now, he does have some holes in his own personal credibility. I'll say that, right? He's been found to be not exactly truthful in the past about certain things, especially on these files. So right away, this is not me endorsing Patrick Byrne. What I mean to do is tell you what he's been up to as a Bitcoiner since he was kicked off. So he went on to Locals, which is the subscription service for Rumble, right? It's the Rumble subscription service, and created a channel there with one of the highest monthly revenue intakes, all about CIA involvement and FBI involvement in elections around the world, in the American election, and all that kind of stuff. So now he's coming back to Twitter and he's going to share his insights. He said, do you want to hear about what I know from 2020? Or do you want to know what I've learned since then? So that's his first thing, right? So he's back online. But all these folks are coming back. One of the coolest ones that came back is Carl Benjamin, the Sargon of Akkad. And I still can't understand why this guy got kicked off. He's kind of a British intellectual, a bit philosopher kind of guy, very critical of what's going on in the world, but he was kicked off of Twitter, and I can't understand why. So today he shared the following tweet, and it gave me my idea for the show today, which was about Tao. And he mentions that, so he reads this quote, C.S. Lewis described the Tao as the objective value system of the universe in which we live relative to the kind of things we are. Awareness of the things we should value puts us in greater harmony with ourselves and the world. So this is the quote he shared. Tao cultivators accept reality as it is, rather than as they wish it to be. The troubles we encounter in life and the pain associated with them are caused by the disparity between our expectations and the way things are. The more stubbornly we refuse to accept them, the more we suffer. So what I hear when I read this Tao quote, Tao, it's the ancient Chinese religion, right? And when Carl Benjamin mentions it here, what I think of is it's not, you are the sum of your thoughts, right? You are the sum of your actions. And if you know what game you're playing, if you know, we talked about that a few days ago, right? Know the rules of the game that you're playing, and that will help you especially protect yourself against misinformation and build wealth, right? Know the game you're playing is a big part of the psychology around money. And if you know what game you're playing, the other people don't have to be playing the same game. You can still interact, but at least you'll be able to decide wins and losses. And what I hear from this is that if you are projecting these negative thoughts, you or even experiencing them, if you're living them, you'll project them just as easily, right? Jesus said something very similar, right? He said, and this is people talking about what's inside of them, right? What's inside of them and what they manifest in the real world. He said, is a lamp brought in to be put under a basket or under a bed and not on a stand? For nothing is hidden except to be made manifest, nor is anything secret except to come to light. If anything has ears to hear, let him hear. And he said to them, pay attention to what you hear. With the measure you use, it will be measured to you, right? The measure you use, it will be measured to you. And that's what I see when I see all of these people playing that old fiat game. They're playing the status game, right? This is all status. They want the status. They want the privileges. Status became the currency of the fiat system because the actual currency, right, the actual currency, doesn't equate to you get what you give, right? It's not that, right? It's not a zero sum. It's not any of those things. It literally is just get status, get close to it, and you'll be safe. So it trained people to want status because status equaled access to the money. And if you weren't close to central bankers, if you didn't have the right Wall Street reputation, if the bankers didn't see you this way, if the different industries close to the money printers, particularly media, didn't think of you in a certain way, didn't recognize your abilities, didn't recognize your status, then it didn't work for you, right? Even look at Obama, right? Obama, who gave a great speech the other day, by the way, on wokeism, if you want to see, and I think sounded as reasonable as he sounded in years, right? Talking about how people get a sense of self-righteousness because they're more woke than someone else, right? So really great to hear Obama talking like this. And he did it at his own Obama, whatever the thing is, the foundation or the initiative or whatever it is that's out there. And he's you know, on TV a lot for. So even he came out. But remember, in his past, he always talked about how if he didn't go to Harvard and get these status pieces, he wasn't going to make it. Right? He needed to go to Harvard. If you read the biography, whatever, Dreams of My Father or whatever it was called, that was one of the big points. He needed the box checked that he'd gone to one of these Ivy League schools so that he could manifest his plan in the world, which was to be president and all these things. And he was successful, right? So absolutely. Now, that's why when Kanye West, thought about being president the first time, it wasn't from Obama. Right? It's that reason, because Obama still had the old fiat logic of I need to go to Harvard, I need to go to these schools, I need to be a part of the cathedral if I'm going to change anything, if I'm going to even be able to participate. He was playing the right game for his time. And when Trump came along, Trump, of course, totally flipped the game. That's why as a Bitcoiner, I always recognize Trump as super important, because no one could create conditions that would bring a lack of credibility to the Federal Reserve as well as Trump did at the time he was in. And if you remember, the reason, or even the idea of Ye being president comes from, in his own words, comes from when he saw Trump do it. Because Trump is the same skill set as Ye. It's persuasion, it's art, it's all those things. And it's conflict. They know the game they're playing. They're playing a game of change. They're not playing a game of suck up and try and do what the last guy did. So when Trump did this and became president, that's what got Ye even thinking it was possible for him. Right? It wasn't the black thing. Right? That's what confuses people about this. A lot of people would say, "Oh, Ye saw a black guy become president, then he had the idea to be president." No. He knew the Harvard thing was an obstacle that he wasn't going to overcome and wasn't interested in overcoming, and it wasn't going to work that way. He wasn't going to go and become a typical professional office jockey in order to rise up through status and credentialism to be the president. Trump is the first one to not do that, even though he went to an Ivy League school and all that. But that's not why he became president. He became president because he was able to dominate the New York real estate industry and the television industry. Those two industries alone gave him the skills that he used to be president. So those skills are the types of skills that Ye has developed in his life. So he only even got the idea to be president when he saw the game that Trump was playing. The game that Obama was playing was not open to him. He didn't even consider it, right? He said, "Oh, I help Obama. I like Obama. He's great, but it wasn't going to be that way." So, so the whole point then becomes what you put out into the world, right? This is not rocket science, but it's what the Taoism says, right? What you put out, or what Jesus said, right? What you measure with is the measure you'll receive. And that's why Bitcoiners stand so far apart from everyone else in the world right now, because we understand how this game works. Now, if you look at all these other things, and I'm going to show you a quick list today of things that are breaking before our eyes, which will all be broken in a very short term here. This is not tomorrow, right? This is now. This is right now. So we've got economic stuff, right? Economic stuff. It turns out that the Philadelphia Federal Reserve has lied to the American public, right? They've lied to the American public. And the job creation of 2022, which was reported just before the midterms, was, they said, 1 million people, 1 million new jobs. And it was a big surprise. Wow, it was great, right? It was really good for an incumbent party to go into the elections with that number. I'm not saying the Federal Reserve was lying, but they revised the number today. Now the elections are over. And it's actually only 10,000 jobs, right? They only did 10,000 jobs, right? So right away, economic stuff teetering. Look at Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has become the canary in the coal mine for this fourth turning, right? Last year, at the start of the year, Sri Lanka had to ban fertilizers because they didn't have the money any longer to pay for them. They had to stop schools in the country because they had no paper left. They had no pencils left. So school was canceled. Their government has fallen. It's sort of a military situation there now. And there's really not a lot of hope. Almost all civil engagement is at a basic barter level there right now. Sri Lanka is that little island off of India. Well, I don't have any relief for them. This is not a story about relief for them. This is just about what's going on in the world and how it's relative to the dollar. So today, they've decided that they're going to use the rupee now. They're not using the USD. They don't have any more. That's what started this trouble, right? They had no more USD. So once they had no more USD in their reserves, they had to become really innovative about where they would get money and how they would import stuff and all that. And that's where the trouble has come. So now they are going to use the Indian rupee for buying energy, right? So we talked about how the yuan is going to be a market, the Chinese yuan, for Russian oil in Shanghai. They're going to make a market for it there. Now you've got the rupee being used by Sri Lanka. And the whole quote from the Sirius report is, other countries, including Tajikistan, Cuba, and Luxembourg, are in talks about using this rupee settlement mechanism. The ongoing de-dollarization in international transactions is continuing. So right away, the US dollar having trouble, right? This is nothing to do with the value of the dollar. I still believe in the dollar milkshake theory. All currencies in the world are fake. Their only realness is relative to the US dollar. The US dollar is the measuring stick. You know, take what you measure and you'll get out what it's the same saying, right? Like what you measure with, you will receive the measurement of. So they measure their currencies by the US dollar. They're all measured. Psychologically, the barometer for money is the US dollar. And other countries leaving that barometer take away that effect. And the US dollar ends up becoming its own thing, right? But the relative value of other money will continue to spiral away from it because they can't really live on their own. The Indian rupee will have the same situation as whatever they used in Sri Lanka before, because the entropy within these other coins will be absorbed from the entropy in the US dollar because they are just derivatives of the US dollar, even if they float freely. If they float freely, it just means that the economic indicators relative to the United States are being measured. That's it, right? How much oil, like in Canada. Our money in Canada is, okay, US produces much oil, Canada produces much oil. We have this many condos vacant, they have this many condos vacant. It's just that, right? They just look at all these numbers and they say, right? So that's what's going on. What about San Francisco, right? So this is another economic one, right? This is another economic one. San Francisco this morning has a petition of a bunch of businesses. How many? I don't have the clear number, but this is from the San Francisco Chronicle this morning. Interviewing a few shop owners in the Tenderloin, which is where Twitter is based, right? They were supposed to fix the Tenderloin by moving there. That was the big story, right? The Tenderloin in San Francisco is going to be better. So this is some interviews from a woman who runs the Cochina. It's a lunchtime restaurant. And she says that she spends more than 300 grand annually for security guards, private security guards, to clear the drug dealers, the fentanyl addicts, the needles, the foil and trash that's in front of her restaurant every day. But by evening, it's always back every day. So she's got security and people to clean it. And you can't just hire any cleaner because needles and drugs and who wants to go there. So it's not a question of even hiring any cleaner. No one wants to go near this stuff. So what are these small, and it's not just her, it's a bunch of small businesses. So they've gotten together and they're done with being patient and they're not going to do it anymore, they said. So they have sent a request to the mayor of London Breed of San Francisco to get a full refund on their taxes for 2022, and they're not paying for 2023. So that's done. Finished. Now, here's another one. All these stories about Twitter now, we're finding about FBI and involvement and what's going on, and just think about it for a second. Like, who are they sending over there to Twitter? Is it their best? Are they sending their best? Is the FBI sending their best to do the stuff on Twitter? I think it's more of a situation like, well, you're not good at being a person with a gun, and you went to school and had some credentialism. You're good for an office. Why don't you just go on Twitter and report on shit you don't like, right? Anyone could do that. Is that happening on other platforms? I think so. And this is proof, right? So if you go on Breitbart, there's only one place that covered this story in the world, and that's that Donald Trump denounced Nick Fuentes and anti-Semitism, right? The guy that is with Ye on the account or on the campaign and whatever. So they're saying that Trump did, and Breitbart covered it, right? Hates Nick Fuentes, don't want any anti-Semitism people, da, 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 da. What, did anyone cover that? Did you see that covered anywhere, right? You saw a million stories covered about how they had lunch or dinner and he invited him even though it was Ye, killing Trump. So no, nothing there. But on Breitbart, they covered it, right? But that's not the story. The story is this, and Breitbart Joel Pollack brings it up. If you search for news about Donald Trump denouncing the anti-Semitism of Nick Fuentes and everyone else on Google, it doesn't come up. You can't find it. Instead, there are pages of stories about how he didn't mention the issue at a dinner with Orthodox Jews. You have to add Breitbart to the search in order to see it in the first place, right? So I think all this stuff about Twitter, it's going to go to Google, it's going to go to Facebook, it's going to go to the others, right? So we've got the San Francisco story, right? We've got the Fed Reserve lying, no taxes, lies. We've got the story about Nick Fuentes, Google not doing their job. What about health? Okay, well, now the FDA just finally came out and said that Pfizer's shot causes the blood clots and myocarditis, right? Which everyone has sort of talked about and known for a long time now. And the Hodge twins mentioned that it's only 2 years late. So right away, Elon Musk yesterday, much will come to light as Fauci loses power. So what he knows on Fauci, I've been talking about it here, right? I never complained about Fauci until the other day. He pushed the drinking bleach hoax, another Aaron Rupar edit, just on live TV. He pushed the drinking bleach hoax. The same interview where he said, "Oh, Elon Musk is out there creating hate. I'm just trying to do my best. I'm an innocent guy." Right? So here are the institutions that are about to fall. Oh, I got one more. The case in Arizona, right? The case in Arizona, the judge didn't take the same excuse that was used in every other one of these election procedure things from 2020. He's actually going to look at the evidence, and you could see from the people working for Katie Hobbs, the governor-elect of Arizona, they're not happy about this because it looks like it's going to be pretty obvious once you get a look at the ballots, and the judge gave them access to these and didn't just do the same thing. We don't have jurisdiction. It won't change the election. Forget it. We're not going to look at it, which is all the cases in 2020, right? Everyone, whenever everyone tells you that the courts looked at corruption in 2020 election, that's not true. They said they don't have standing, and that even if they looked at this case, we're dealing with 100 votes or whatever here, it won't matter. So every one of them that has said, no, we have no standing, won't make a difference, no standing. No court looked at anything. No court got a forensic auditor that can understand the vulnerabilities of the computer network system, of the software, of the hardware. No one did that, right? No, that never happened. And now it's going to happen in Arizona. So we've got taxes in California and San Francisco. We've got the Fed lying, but that's a big news. We've got healthcare which is about to be under way more scrutiny. The other search engines about to be under way more scrutiny. And now, if you look at the polling, if you look at the results and the forensic analysis of Arizona, I'm going to come out and say, I think you're going to see an overturned election. I'm saying it right now. I think you're going to see an overturned election. And if that happens, you're going to see jail time. You're going to see a lack of confidence in a lot of our elections, right? Now, I don't have proof. I don't have any proof. It's just what I think is going to happen based on what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. So do the math. We've got elections. We've got the economy. We've got media. We've got taxes, right? All of these things coming under scrutiny now. And again, if you think in terms of Bitcoin, right, that and put that Tau element into it, and you remember that what you put out into the world is what you're going to end up getting, right? If they're playing the game of credentialism, they're playing the game of holding on to these levers of power that are evaporating as we speak, right? Let them do it. It's sand in their fingers. Bitcoiners just have to understand that these pieces that have helped build the modern world are crumbling. And luckily, we have answers. Luckily, we have the psychological frame to understand how to replace all of these things and what should be there instead. You know, when we look at these elections, Bitcoiners understand how consensus and how to trust a network architecture works. We get that. I mean, that's the point, right? We get how network architecture works. And if you think of even the whole search engine game, the centralized capacity of these networks to brainwash, right? We're aware of all this stuff. So the good news is everything's breaking just in time for Bitcoin to take its place, right? Just in time for Bitcoin to take its place. Let's see some of the quotes here. We got the guy who does the job, no one else will has ultimate pricing power. Yeah, basically a blank check if it's government money. Yeah. We have our own language of value, Bitcoin Graffiti says. Exactly. Yeah, our own value of language. And that's what helps us, that's what helps the memes. That's what helps us spread information so quickly. That's what helps us understand and share an understanding of the world with everyone in our community, right? We can almost have a telepathic connection because of the memes. The memes are so powerful and so communicative and so densely packed with information that it's very difficult for anyone to keep up with the speed that we pass information on. Hammer saw the fish rots from the head. Yeah, that's what we want, right? If you like the stream, there will be world peace, Dex says. Yeah, I think so. Oh, no, language of value equals Bitcoin. I see. Yeah, language. Yes. Yeah. It's like I say, you can, because we can count it, right? Because we understand incentives from it, because it ends up teaching us about the value of time, right? Time is money. And not everyone understands that we only have one finite resource truly, and it's time. And that's what makes money so useful in the end, is that it's the best convertible unit for time. The money we've experienced until now was always a facsimile of time. It was time plus the cost of energy, time plus the cost of information, plus other external costs. But those things are coming down because of other technological innovations, and that's what Bitcoin has absorbed. And it's a big help to us, right? It's a big help. The rupeeization, Bitcoin Graffiti says, yeah. That lady was crying, saying Obama gonna pay her bills. Yeah, I didn't see that one, Hammer. If you're not measuring, you're not managing. Exactly, Justin. You got to measure. Obama was also a master. This is from Hammersaw. Was a masterpiece of marketing, especially in 08 Obama campaign. Could have sold water to an ocean. Yeah, I've rarely seen that kind of power. Really, that everyone waiting on every speech. I was only a real diehard. Diehard's the wrong way. I was a huge Obama fan when he was against Hillary. Remember when everyone thought Hillary was going to win? I was still in law school, and we had a big, like Hillary, the first debate, I guess, Obama Hillary. We had a law school party to watch it. Bitcoin Graffiti says, "Get close to the money spigot." Yeah, Bitcoin is the new game, though. Rules of nature, accept nature, acceptance. I think Bitcoin Graffiti, you're talking about Tao when you're talking about that acceptance. CK, morning, CK. Hammersaw, looks like Musk might get left holding a $50 billion bag. What does that mean, Hammersaw? Do you mean the, are you talking about the, I think you are. Yeah. All right, team. Kids have come out of their playroom. Sunday morning. I'm going to go play in the snow. Peace, everyone. Thanks for dropping in.